In this video, we will explore 7 essential PvP tips that can help you become a more formidable player. These tips encompass a range of gameplay aspects, from understanding cooldowns and skill interactions, to capitalizing on your opponent's mistakes and making smart decisions in battle. By the end, you'll have a better understanding of the art of getting good. One of the fundamental aspects of PvP gameplay is learning cooldowns. Why? Well, if you remember your enemy's cooldowns, it's going to help you know when you can push and when you need to play cautiously. The easiest example is learning the cooldown of Flash, which every officer has, and it is 6 seconds. The only exception here is Lubu's Demon form, where his Flash turns into a damage skill that jumps and has an 8-second cooldown. If the enemy's Flash is down, that might be a cue to go in and wreak havoc. Also, learning which officers have long cooldowns is important. Officers such as JU, CAO, and Dynasty have cooldowns over 10 seconds, meaning that if they mess up, you have a long period before they can use their combos. Some officers can reduce their cooldowns. CAO, for example, resets all skill cooldowns if he gets a kill. This effectively allows him to instantly flash or use his combos again to go for another kill. Dyoken also reduces skill cooldown each time her butterfly dance hits you. Probably shouldn't tank the damage if you're on the defensive. Another example is Gan Ning. If you use his first skill, which essentially allows him to swim underwater, the first skill turns into another skill that charges at the enemy and stuns. Upon contact, this will reduce the second skill's cooldown by 6 seconds. Similarly, if you use the second skill when you're on the surface, it reduces the first skill's cooldown by 5 seconds. This effectively lets him keep spamming his skills upon correct usage. The last example is Dynasty, although I don't think it's seen as often if you read his skill set. Upon certain conditions being met, his skill's cooldown does get reduced. The next tip is, don't be afraid to use a lieutenant's ultimate for zoning. These abilities are often used offensively, and rightfully so. However, sometimes using your ultimate for zoning purposes can be a game changer, especially when you have other skills on long cooldown. Basically, what zoning means here is creating an area of threat where the enemy feels unsafe to go through. It can deter opponents from approaching a certain area or force them into unfavorable positions. You may remember previously I states, some officers, such JU and CAO, have long cooldowns they may need to zone to get their skills off cooldown. For example, Genji's ultimate has a massive range that slows and freezes enemies who run through them. Though her ultimate is used offensively 90% of the time, using it to keep the enemy away from you while you wait for cooldowns might help. Other officers that are great for zoning are Zhang Jiao, CAO, Dyoken, and Zhang Liao. You can use a lot of officers for zoning for defensive purposes. It just depends on your situation. The third tip is to learn which skills trap, stun, or freeze, and when to use your flash. Most officers have some type of skills that can immobilize, trap, stun, or freeze the enemy. If they don't, they probably aren't that great. Flash can be used to either evade enemy skills or stuns or jump in to initiate a stun combo. This also goes hand in hand with the first tip, which was learning cooldowns. Learning which skills have these disabling effects and when they're on cooldown will help, you know, when you can play offensively versus cautiously or defensively. The next tip is to learn to react to enemies' skills and predict what they'll do. Most enemies have 1 or 2 combo moves they love to do. The simplest example is CAO. He can either flash in, use his first sword skill to immobilize and silence you, and immediately jump to stun and do massive damage. Or he can hope you make a mistake with your flash, jump in when you have no way to escape, damage you, and use his other skills or lieutenant ultimate to secure the kill. Another example is Guo. He mostly loves to flash in and instantly stun. Most enemies are slow to react to this combo because it's so fast. Some people know to look out for this and can react equally as fast as you are executing it. Another trick that used to work a lot is Lubu's spear. When the spear is facing the enemy sees an eye above their head, meaning they're being targeted. Well, the LUB, you can just keep the skill facing them without executing the skill, making the enemy scared they're about to get comboed. This works less often with more skilled players, as they know they can just flash with proper timing to avoid the combo. It's not an easy thing to master though. Each game character's abilities and skills have unique interactions with other characters. For example, consider a scenario where two lubu characters are facing off. When one lubu jumps into the battle, it often warrants a specific response from the other. If the enemy lubu spears you, how do you react? Do you flash so you don't get grabbed? Or use your cage so he doesn't get in your personal bubble? It just depends on whether you want to play offensively or defensively. Also, don't use your 3-wave stun as a response unless it's your only immunity skill. It's a waste of a response. Next, possibly the most important tip: learn to capitalize on enemy mistakes. In most PvP matches, opponents will make mistakes. If they aren't making mistakes, it's because you're making them, and they're capitalizing on your mistakes. What does it mean to capitalize? Here, it means to take advantage of your opponent's mistakes, which has put them in a disadvantageous position. Mistakes may include overextension, the waste of a flash, a missed skill or combo, or the waste of immunity skills. The key to victory is learning how to capitalize on these errors. Being observant and remembering cooldowns is one way to know when to capitalize. Reflect on your matches, recognize when your enemy is out of position, has wasted a valuable cooldown, or is vulnerable, and be prepared to strike. Smart and timely decision-making can transform these moments into game-changing plays. Sometimes the enemy just doesn't make any mistakes, and you have to just be patient and make sure you don't make any either. Making mistakes is inevitable, it's how you grow and learn. This next one is a personal preference: lock onto your opponents by clicking this button if not already on by default. This feature can help you keep track of your enemy, especially in fast-paced battles. Wasting precious seconds trying to locate your opponents can leave you vulnerable. By locking onto your enemies, you can maintain awareness of their movements and actions, allowing you to react more swiftly and effectively. Lastly, depending on the enemy, you may need to play patiently. This is especially true against the zhuge lubu. You're not going to win every game because one mistake can snowball into many more mistakes. For example, we mentioned earlier lubu versus lubu match. Instead of playing 100% aggressive, sometimes you may just need to use your skills defensively and reset the match. Also, if you're fighting against zhuge, learn to bait their skills by dancing back and forth a bit. You'll probably have a bad time being aggressive against a zhuge unless you've learned their cooldowns and know they have no escape. To be at the top, you need to develop a deep understanding of various gameplay mechanics and strategies. Learning cooldowns, using your ultimate offensively and defensively, understanding skill interactions, reacting to enemy skills, capitalizing on mistakes, and locking onto opponents are all essential skills for PvP dominance. Bonus tip: just spend $500 on zhuge and ignore everything you heard prior to this because he's the most broken character in the game.